Evelyn Moore, a young journalist, arrived at Ravenwood Mortuary late one evening. The mortuary had been abandoned for decades, rumored to be cursed after a series of mysterious deaths. Evelyn was determined to uncover the truth. As she entered, the air turned icy, and the faint smell of decay made her stomach churn. She pulled out her flashlight, the beam cutting through the thick darkness. Evelyn stepped carefully down the long hallway. The wooden floor creaked under her feet. Faint whispers echoed from the walls, as though the building itself was alive. She followed the sound and stumbled upon a room filled with dusty coffins. One coffin stood out. Its lid was slightly open. Her trembling hands pushed it aside, revealing a skeleton clutching a locket. Inside the locket was a picture of a woman who looked exactly like Evelyn. Terrified but curious, Evelyn searched further and discovered a hidden staircase leading to a basement. The walls were carved with strange symbols, and candles flickered on their own. In the center of the room was a large table covered in dried blood, surrounded by tools and bones. She realized this was no ordinary mortuary. It had been used for rituals. Suddenly the air turned thick and Evelyn felt something watching her. She turned to see a pale, ghostly figure emerging from the shadows. It whispered, "You were chosen." Evelyn tried to run, but the doors slammed shut. The ghost pointed to the symbols and said, "Finish what was started." Evelyn's heart pounded as she realized she was being pulled into the curse. Desperate, Evelyn grabbed one of the tools and smashed the symbols on the wall. The ghost screamed, and the room began to shake. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the candles extinguished. Evelyn raced up the stairs, but the whispers followed her. She burst out of the mortuary just as it collapsed behind her. Weeks later, Evelyn published her story, but she couldn't sleep. The whispers hadn't stopped. One night, she woke up to find the locket from the mortuary on her nightstand, glowing faintly. She picked it up and saw her reflection in the glass. Only it wasn't her face staring back. It was the ghost's. Evelyn thought she escaped the curse, but some spirits never let go.
Thank you
Death
for
is
watching
inevitable,
Mysterious.
but funerals are rituals we often associate with closure, respect, and remembrance. However, beneath the solemn ceremonies and grieving faces, some funerals hide chilling secrets that refuse to be buried. This is one such tale. The Harper family had always believed in honoring the dead with dignity. When their beloved son, Daniel, tragically passed away in a car accident, they turned to Crestview Funeral Home for his final rites. The service was beautiful, and Daniel was laid to rest in the family plot under a marble headstone. But their peace was short-lived. 2 weeks after the funeral, Daniel's younger sister, Emily, visited his grave. What she found made her blood run cold. The soil around the grave had been disturbed, and the headstone was slightly askew. Assuming it was a prank, the Harpers contacted the cemetery staff, but the truth was far darker. When authorities exhumed the coffin, they discovered it was empty. Daniel's body was missing. The police questioned the funeral home director, Mr. Alan Grayson, who appeared nervous but denied any wrongdoing. However, investigators uncovered evidence of illegal activity. Hidden in the funeral home's basement were severed body parts preserved in jars and documents detailing the sale of human remains to underground buyers. DNA testing confirmed some of the parts belonged to Daniel. The Harpers were devastated. Yet, the horror didn't end there. Days after the discovery, Emily began receiving eerie text messages from an unknown number. The text contained personal details only Daniel could have known, childhood memories and family secrets. One message read, "Help me. I'm not at rest." Terrified, the family consulted a paranormal investigator who suggested Daniel's soul was trapped due to the desecration of his body. They held a séance during which strange occurrences unfolded. Flickering lights, unearthly whispers, and the sound of shuffling footsteps. Further investigation revealed that Mr. Grayson had been part of a cult that believed in harvesting body parts to create vessels for spirits. Daniel had been one of their victims. Grayson confessed but claimed that some bodies, including Daniel's, had been sold intact to private collectors. Desperate to find closure, the Harpers tracked down the buyer. What they found was horrifying. Daniel's body was displayed as part of a morbid art exhibit in a hidden gallery. The family retrieved his remains and held a second burial. Though Daniel's body was finally laid to rest, the haunting messages continued. To this day, Emily receives cryptic texts that leave her questioning whether Daniel's soul is truly at peace, or if he's still reaching out from the other side. The small town of Hollow Creek gathered at the old church for the funeral of Margaret Reed, a woman whose sudden death had left the town shaken. The air was thick with mourning, but Margaret's daughter, Claire, couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the casket was lowered into the grave, Claire heard a faint whisper, a sound so soft that she questioned if it was just the wind. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. The whisper she had heard at the funeral echoed in her mind. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. An anonymous text message appeared. "You buried me alive." Terrified, Claire dismissed it as a cruel prank, but her unease grew when she heard a soft tapping on her bedroom window, as if someone or something was trying to get in. Unable to ignore the fear gnawing at her, Claire convinced the local authorities to exhume the coffin the next day. As the gravediggers lifted the lid, everyone froze. The inside of the coffin was scratched and bloodied. Margaret's fingers were raw and broken, and her mouth was frozen in a scream. As investigators examined the body, Claire stepped away, feeling faint. Suddenly, the whispers returned, this time clearer and closer. She turned and saw her mother's reflection in a puddle near the grave. Her lips moved, but her voice came from everywhere. "You buried me, but I'm not the only one." Terrified, Claire confronted the funeral director, Mr. Benson, who had handled the arrangements. Under pressure, he confessed. He had drugged Margaret to fake her death and sold other bodies for illegal experiments. But something had gone wrong, and Margaret had woken up too late. The whispers Claire heard were not just guilt. They were echoes of other victims still buried beneath the ground. That night, Claire returned to the cemetery to lay flowers for her mother. As she knelt by the grave, the whispers grew louder, multiplying. She turned to see graves around her trembling, soil shifting as if something or someone was trying to rise. Sometimes the dead refuse to stay buried, and sometimes the living are the ones who make sure they can't. Never let go.
Thank you for watching Mysterious Vibe. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more unsettling, true scary stories. Sleep tight if you can.